With the carnivore area truly taking shape and the entire park expanding rapidly week after week, I thought it might be time to start putting down some truly iconic dinosaurs, such as the raptor. So join us in building Jurassic Park. So, I knew from the offset of week 6 that I 100% wanted to place down some raptors in the carnivore area. However, to do that, I also knew I was going to need to increase our power output, because the park was just struggling way too much with its current output. So I went back and continued to build the reactor, finally fully installing the reactor itself. Now, this is obviously off-centre, but that's on purpose, because I am planning to reinstall it a bit to the side later on and add a second reactor. I'm also dancing around with the idea of maybe having upwards of 4 different nuclear reactors. With it placed, the one major thing that is missing for it is the fuel. As I said before, I had almost all of the resources for it ready in the storage system, but I needed to process it, and to do that, I needed advanced alloys and also a thermal centrifuge. But to build the thermal centrifuge, I needed a mining laser, so I ended up adding 3 of them. One for the thermal centrifuge, and one each for me and Martha. Honestly, I had been wanting to build these for a while, but they were on the ever-growing list of things I would get to, eventually. They just speed up mining so quickly by allowing you to destroy such a large area in a matter of seconds, which, considering just how many of our utility builds are underground, makes the laser a game changer for us. With the thermal centrifuge built, I could finally process all of the uranium ore we had been collecting into actually useful radioactive uranium. So radioactive, in fact, that you needed a hazmat suit just to pick it up without getting radiation poisoning, and a containment box just to have it in your inventory without the suit. Martha, though, was really not a fan of the hazmat suit. This time around, I am feeling like I might actually have to teach you how the reactor works. There's a lot that could go wrong with it.
You look ridiculous.
Oh, what do you mean? I think it's an amazing outfit, especially my backpack.
Fucking awful. Someone did not spend any time on that.
Nope. You know the mod is very, very old. Where are you? I want to do a little experiment.
There's a shady merchant.
Yeah, I've noticed him. Have you seen his trade?
I can't trade him.
Okay, well, his trade is 8 emeralds for 1 emerald block.
Oh, that makes sense.
Oh, so you don't get radiation poisoning. What about if you pick it up? Come here, you just want a little bit of radiation poisoning.
No, I'm alright.
No, come on, come on, come on. It won't kill you.
I'll throw Tenkazinski at you.
Oh yeah, I forgot about all your NPC names. After trying to slightly poison Martha, I finally managed to build a quad fuel rod. Now I could just stick this into the reactor, and it would probably end up going boom in, well, probably a matter of minutes. In the end, I followed a design I found online, and used 4 overclocked heat vents and 2 component heat vents. In all honesty, these would throttle the maximum power output of the reactor by a significant amount, which is why, over the course of the week, I would continually add more fuel rods to the reactor. The trade-off for this, though, is that the reactor would be theoretically meltdown-proof. Of course, if someone was to mess with the reactor, or accidentally move one of the heat vents, it would eventually go boom. And it's a good job too, otherwise this could happen. Anyway, with that working, I finally have the power output to start putting in some more moving gates on the pens. I would end up using a bit of a more updated design than the ones in the tunnel. See, those ones required 2 levers to operate, which could sometimes be a bit confusing and made closing the gates from the other side a bit of a hassle. So I got rid of the levers completely and instead set up a 1-button system, where you only had to press it once to open or close the gate. This made the time to build each gate a fair bit longer, but you know what? For the convenience of use, it was 100% worth it. I would also end up going back to my factory and finishing the smelter room, fully installing all of the smelters and pipes before going back through and sprucing the room up to make it look a bit better. To celebrate finishing it, I went and threw our entire ore stockpile into the smelter, and it was beautiful. Finishing the smelter got me in a decorating mood, so I went back to the reactor and started to make it look just that little bit nicer. For safety reasons, I put a bunch of reinforced glass in the control room, so you can still watch the reactor without having to go inside and be somewhat safe. The key word there being somewhat. For the inside of the reactor, I probably could have used reinforced stone, which would help to protect from any reactor meltdown, but that would take a very long time to build, and so many resources that I decided I would leave it for now. Maybe at some point I would go back and place reinforced stone behind the walls, but for now, this design will do. I also found these really cool giant fans, but unfortunately they're based off coordinate positioning, so they sometimes ended up being slightly off, so I couldn't actually place them everywhere I wanted to. I still need to do the roof, but you know what? For now, it will do, since I decided it would be better to make the reactor Martha-proof instead, because I don't want her to accidentally set the reactor off. I already knew exactly what I wanted, so I created these laser doors that would require a special level 5 keycard to deactivate. Initially, these lasers were a bit dodgy, sometimes flickering on and off because it was just straight up wasting power. But once I realised this, I rewired the system so that it was just creating a loop of itself. While I had been underground building, Martha had made it clear that she was getting annoyed with how long it took to go from the herbivore zone to the lab, a trip she was making so many times by car because the storage system did not yet reach to her zone. Now that I finally had a nuke, I was in a much more charitable mood, so I decided I would help her out. I ended up getting a network relay system that would digitally transfer items from the storage system to the area that Martha was working in. Now it turns out this was a fair bit cheaper to build than I thought it was, and I probably could have built this around 2 weeks ago, but after careful consideration, I decided not to tell that to Martha. Now that Martha was all sorted, I finally was free to build us the raptor pen. As with all of the other carnivore pens, I had some trouble deciding on an exact shape and placement of the pen, but I knew from the beginning I wanted it to be a pit where you viewed the raptors from up high. To help me dig out this pit, I finally got to fully unleash the power of lasers. Honestly, this could have taken so many hours otherwise, especially since the pit would be 5 deep to try and prevent the raptors from escaping. For a water source, I put a small crescent-shaped pool down, but I also dug out a small indoor paddock where the raptors could sleep at night. But I wanted the floor to be hay, and because all of our wheat was currently tied up in the meat factory, I made a quick detour to build a wheat farm. Not exactly the most efficient design or the biggest farm ever, but it worked and it could be stacked vertically all the way down to bedrock, so I was happy. With the hay paddock done, I went underground to build a fun way of feeding the raptors, a mob launcher. It was basically just a slime block mob launcher that would throw a goat out from underground into the raptor pen where it could be eaten. I did have some difficulties getting the mobs down into the pit at first, but eventually I sorted it, and to load the launcher I used a very similar system to the animal factory, where a minecart would pick them up, then drop the goats inside of the launcher. The initial loading design was a bit rugged and required you to flip the trapdoor lever after the mobs were launched, so I would end up building an upgraded design where from inside a control room the entire launcher was wired up to a single button that would just launch the mob out and close the trapdoor itself. This control room also had some trapdoors itself, so you could shoot tranquilizers at the raptors if you needed to go into the pen without being instantly eaten. I also built a smaller control room behind the sleeping area as well, which had a button wired to a gate that would lock the sleeping area off, so that if you needed to go and do some cleaning or building in the pen itself, you could do so. To get the raptors into the sleeping area, I added some dispensers filled with meat. Well, all of that was fun. You know what's not fun though? Building the exact same pen right next to it, especially since I had to dig out the corner of a mountain. Now, why did I do this? Because it wasn't just the velociraptors I wanted to have in a pen, but also the atrociraptors. Now, before anyone says something about the accuracy of the raptors, yeah, I know. There's actually four types of raptors in the mod: velociraptors, atrociraptors, oviraptors, which we already have, and microraptors, which we have plans for. Anyway, I went back to the lab and got us the eggs ready. The plan was to have 3 male velociraptors and 3 female atrociraptors. We couldn't mix the two species in a single pen, because they would just fight each other. While I waited for the eggs to be incubated, I messed around with some of the villager trades and got absolutely screwed with these fake emerald blocks. Yeah, I don't know why I thought a shady merchant would give me something good, but anyway, I went back and placed both species of raptors and immediately noticed that for each species, one of the raptors was a bit bigger than the others. It was at this point I realised just how useful the middle control room was, as I could quickly get from pen to pen. While building the raptor pen, I did realise that Martha somewhat had a point about how long it took to get back to the lab. We did have the helicopter, but honestly that could be a bit awkward to fly for what is, in all reality, a relatively short distance, just made complicated by the lakes. We also wanted something that could transport us with little input from ourselves, unlike the cars. I already had a plan to help with this issue. So as part of my plan, I reset the tunnel wall to go towards the carnivore zone. Meanwhile I waited for this to be done, I went back to my factory and decided to redo it to make it actually look nice. I also used this chance to get rid of some of the andesite out of the system. I think this updated design is actually really smooth and so much cleaner. I like how it turned out, and I used these special lanterns to light up almost the entire room. I also left some room for expansion, so that later on I could add a room to store power or whatever else I wanted. I also quickly went back and had another play around with the boats. I finally got it to do a path that was a bit better, but when I added the other boats to the chain, it became a bit janky. I decided I would have a better look at it next week, but for now, it works. While I was there, I thought I'd have a look at how progress was going on Martha's herbivore walkway. She had built this pretty nice bar and fast food hut, as well as the north boarding dock for the boat ride. After a few hours, I finally had the tracks from the tunnel wall properly installed, and decided to hop on it and have a go. My next project for the tunnel would be to add a proper train system that would allow for fast-paced travel between the different zones. At this point, the pathways are already there between the zones, since they had been drilled out by the train miner. However, they were still just the basic Minecraft tracks, which, in all honesty, aren't really very fast. So I plan to change that by swapping them out for electric tracks, which would be able to power the trains themselves and would offer a far faster rate of travel than the standard Minecraft ones. Making these modded tracks, though, is an insanely slow process, since with the basic track roller you have to stay in the menu and manually roll them yourself, which is a colossal investment of time. Luckily, there is the metal roller, which can do it automatically, but it needs brass plates to be built. I thought that this would be insanely easy, but what I never realised was that you can't just hammer the brass into plates like you can with other metals, but instead need to make a specialist machine. Remember when I said I left room for expansion when I did up the factory? Well, it is time to use that. I built a small corridor leading into another decently sized room, which kept the same design as the previous one, while still having potential areas that could be used for expansion. Something pretty funny is that I spent admittedly way too long trying to figure out why this pressing machine wasn't being made. Turns out that I had just built it wrong, but I was so convinced that I had built it correctly, I just never noticed. The other problem I had is that the immersive engineering mod primarily uses its own energy source, which is transferred using literal wires as opposed to cables like our other tech mods. Luckily, there was a heat transference machine which required a warm and a cold block to generate power. For the cold block, I just went and grabbed some snowballs and compressed them into ice. Then, when the ice almost immediately melted, I got some packed ice instead. For the hot block, I used a small block of uranium. After all, what's a small amount of radiation poisoning between friends? Once I got the metal roller built, I realised my next problem. I needed a bunch of blaze powder, so it was time to go on a blaze hunt. I did this until my sword broke. Then I just made a new diamond one and built a track replacer and an electric locomotive. I was so excited to get these trains running that I just placed the electric train down and linked it to the track replacer and sent them on their way. Then I immediately realised the problem. The electric tracks which would power the train were not already placed, so the electric train kept running out of power. Now, looking back, I could probably have just put the train at the back, but I didn't think of that at the time. So instead, I pushed the track replacer personally, which took so much time and cost me so many crowbars. At least it was an excuse just to make a far superior steel crowbar. Once all that was done, I realised that it was pointless because I needed to put shunting wires under all of the electric tracks or it wouldn't work. When I say I spent multiple days working on this, I mean it. I swear I almost went insane doing it. But you know what? When it was done, it was totally worth it, just being able to travel between zones so much quicker than before. While I had been doing all this though, Martha had been sprucing up the base a fair bit. First off, she built the security office up at the herbivore zone, inside which we have Judgmental Pumpkin, who will be watching the CCTV systems at some point. And behind the desk, I moved to this archer villager. Back at the lab, she built the helipad, so we finally had a designated place to land the helicopter instead of just in the field. She also put down some nice cosmetic stuff like this path and some plants, as well as an actual place for us to park our cars. Right, so what's the actual plan for the Gallimimus?
It's gonna be down one of the sides the walkways are. And it's gonna be really fucking big. And
Sorry, walkways up?
yeah, to the from the dock to the.
Oh, okay, I thought you meant to the herbivore pen.
No, no, no.
I was going to say, that's a substantial distance.
Sorry, I just. You were
Yeah, that makes more sense, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's gonna have a little like wooded.
Area, but it doesn't go into the wooded area, right?
No, no, no. I mean, it's gonna have like a little like wood little shack hotel thingy at the back, a little pod.
Cool, so that'll be one of the 3 hotels we'll have.
Yeah.
Perfect. So we'll just need to do the path then first, and then we can work out the border out of dirt.
Yeah.
Replace it with wire, and go from there. Perfect, right. Let's go and work out this path. But yeah, you see where that pillar is?
No. Yes.
That's where the dock ends.
Okay.
So the path is going to be starting from there. And I'm assuming it's just a straight up, straight path.
Sort of a little windy looking, but it's more or less gonna be straight.
Okay.
Like nature sort of thing, you know. Just solid straight brick path. Just.
Yep. And then I'm thinking about here is where it ends to the town. So basically from here to there, maybe, you know what, maybe a bit more like here, and this be the entrance to the town.
Just happened. Yeah, that works.
Perfect. We will work with that then. And then obviously the town can have a more windy path as well. Seeing what Martha had built and having a quick meeting about what we were going to do next got me a bit restless to go out and build another pen while I waited for the resources to be gathered. So I went back to the Carno area and decided it was time to build another multiple dino pen. See, I have this Word document filled with all the Carnos in the mod, and which ones can actually coexist with the others without starting a mass brawl every 5 seconds. So for this pen, I planned to put in 5 different breeds of dinosaur, meaning it needed a fair amount of space for them to all walk around in. I decided for this one I was going to keep the interior terrain more or less how it already was, because with the walls it actually did look decent enough. I also added this small cave with a gravel floor because, well, I thought it would be cool. That's the only real reason that I have. With that built, I jumped straight into building the Gallimimus pen. While I was getting all the iron together to make the fence base, I met Terry for the first time. No idea where he came from, but I'm assuming Martha put him there. After being very confused, I started placing all of the fence bases. Now, because Gallimimus aren't exactly the deadliest of dinosaurs, I decided there was no point whatsoever in electrifying the fences. After all, what's the chances they are going to kill anyone? Once I put the bases down, I put the fence posts in as well. And then it was time for the overly repetitive task of placing down the wires. Honestly, the wand was a massive help in speeding up this process. A quick gate installation later, and it was time to put down the Gallimimus. While I was at it, I went back to the carnivore zone, and in the new pen placed down 3 Aculorators, 2 Barrys, 5 Guangs, 2 Heras, and 2 Metaraxes. Once again, yes, I know I messed up all of those names. Once the dinos were placed, I jumped around the back of the Carno pens and started to build the back rooms of it. For the lower level, I built this maintenance area that has access to all of the pens and access to the raptor control rooms. Above this, I built a much nicer indoor walkway. This walkway will have signs saying what dinosaurs you are looking at and maybe a bit more information about them. My next project starts off with building a cross section next to the raptor zone. I leave in the middle room for an elevator which will go down to a corridor leading to what will be part of the aquatic dino zone. There is also room for a pathway back outside the indoor area, exiting you right next to the raptor pens. The door opposite the entrance, though, is locked by a keycard reader. You see, behind this door will be the entrance to an exclusive restaurant that only the richest of the rich can eat at. Those few VIP guests will be given a special keycard that can be used to open this door. The plan has always been to have 4 restaurants in the theme park. One in the herbivore zone, which Martha will build, one in the underwater zone, and 2 in the carno zone. Out of the 4 restaurants, this one will be the most unique. Not just because it is an exclusive restaurant, but because it has a unique twist which will become clear in due time. Coming out of the keycard locked door, you are greeted with the lobby to the restaurant, where guests will be checked to make sure they genuinely are on the guest list. After all, this restaurant prides itself on discretion. Once tickets are sorted, guests then take the elevator down to Y level 41, where the real restaurant is. Now, I'm going to be honest here, this took me well over 11 hours to build. Maybe it was a bit of an overinvestment in time, but I still think after having built this thing, it was completely worth it. The first stage of construction was mining out a sloped seating area, ringing around a central pit. See if you can guess what will be in the centre, and how that plays into the theme of the restaurant. After a few hours of building, I realised this was taking forever, so I ran back to the base and grabbed one of my favourite utility blocks, the Buildcraft Quarry. Leaving that to run overnight, I came back on just a few times to move its position. After many hours later of building, I managed to finish the walls and the roof. Time to start on the marble floor and the seating areas. This had already taken so long that I had extended the storage system over to the area, just so that I didn't have to run back to the laboratory to get more resources. This was also by far my biggest build on the park yet, with it requiring so many hours and thousands of blocks to build, and it wasn't even the maximum size I wanted it to be. Originally, I wanted the roof to be far taller, but eventually found out that if I built it as high as I wanted to, it would pop out of the ground above. After the marble floors were done, it was time to build the pit in the middle, and also time for me to reveal the point of the restaurant, a dinosaur fight club. These high-paying visitors can come and bet on which dinosaurs they think will win the fight. The winners live to fight another day, and the losers, well, the losers get turned into that night's dinner. Down in the pit, we have 2 side chambers, one on each side with totally normal walls that seal them up. I still need to build all of the administration chambers and room for the winning dinos to be stored, and of course, the kitchens. But that's something I will do next week. For now, I put down some dinosaurs which will battle it out at the end of this week's episode, but which dinos they are, I'll leave it as a surprise. I also built this little control room where you can open the doors and lower the middle wall from. With all that sorted, I headed back to the indoor Carno area and began to place down paddock signs for each of the dinos. I'm planning to place skeletons or something more here at some point, but I'll leave that to Martha to make. Meanwhile I was over there, I thought, you know what, I might as well make another dinosaur pen. This time with an ice theme. To get said ice, I headed back on over to the mountain and started to shovel up snow, which I then turned into snow blocks, compressed into ice, and then into packed ice. With the ice, I then built this admittedly rather small pen, but I think it came out great. For the dinosaurs inside of it, I made 2 Enos. Now, yeah, this isn't exactly their preferred habitat, but they are the closest to the saber-tooth this mod has. These also happen to be the first dinos I have made that use the cultivator instead of the incubator. One quick train journey later, and it's time to place down the Enos in their new habitat. And they are possibly the cutest baby dinos yet. While I was building the fight club, I realised it would be useful if I had a little friend to help out. So after a bit of processing high-level materials, I ended up with everything I needed to build a little Robbit. Apart from just being a super cute little robot, it is also a moving anvil, chest, furnace, and a crafting grid. The best part is that it's technically unkillable, since if it gets taken down, it just teleports back to its charge pad, which acts as its home. At this point, my project of a restaurant had grown the attention of Martha, who I hadn't told about it as I wanted it to be a surprise, but she had noticed a large amount of our resources had disappeared, so it was finally time to show her what I had done, and Martha had a surprise for me too. We're going straight to the factory.
What have you done to Kevin?
Kevin? Terry, you mean?
Terry. Yeah.
Remember the names of your pets?
The name was Kevin? Oh, it's Robin.
Yep.
Why is it not called Robin?
Because they're... Right, Martha, come here. I'm gonna have to break the news to you. They were never called Robin. They were always called Robbit. Robin is a name you made up for it.
No.
Do you remember when we played Halo when you called all the warthogs Rory?
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
No, it was always Robin. You're lying is what's happening.
I'll see if I can change its name. But yeah, come through here. Little bit of radiation.
I've seen this, I got stuck on it.
It's quite cool. Come with me. I'm going to take you to the next thing. Time for the train. To be honest, Martha, I think you've broken it.
Oh.
I don't know how you've done it. It's been working perfectly, and then the second you touch it...
Like anything tech, as soon as I...
No, just get off the track. There we go. Hop in the seat. You in?
Yep.
Let's go. Oh yeah, if this hits a mob, it will blow up, by the way.
Oh, right. Well, so I died about 6 times trying to fix your miner the other day.
Yeah, it's gone into some really weird tunnels.
Yeah, I was trying to fix the ground, but it kept going.
Don't open the map. Don't click J. Oh my god, I didn't realise it looked like that.
Have you made a swastika?
Oh my god, no. It's just very cool looking. Right. I slowed it down. Hop out. I'll turn that off.
enjoying the screaming that I'm hearing. Okay.
So, obviously there's this pen with its cave.
Fucking hell, they're very.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna find a way to separate them. And then through here is our newest pen. Where's the other one gone? There was two of them.
There's now just half of one.
Yeah, I'm assuming the other one drowned. These mobs really do love their water. It could be hidden against the wall, but who knows. Right, it's time to show you the thing that I spent over 11 hours on. I also got signs.
Ooh.
Welcome. So, before you do anything, this pathway here and down here, this pathway here will be an exit to the water zone.
Okay.
This will be an elevator down to the underwater walkway through the water zone.
Okay.
Through here, this will be a locked door that you need a level 5 keycard, so you need a VIP keycard to get into. You come down here, there will be a security officer here. Come into the elevator. Down we go.
Oh, that, yeah.
Have a look.
For fuck's sake. How
Welcome.
Holy shit.
Gets better. Come in, just stand here for a bit. Just look into the pit.
How you feeling up it? Have you thought about handrails?
No, not really. So we got this. This is to separate the dinos.
I've either lagged or that stopped.
Yeah, it has stopped.
Okay.
Okay, now stare to your left at the left wall. In the pit.
Okay. That's.
Yep.
So.
This is going to be Dinosaur Fight Club restaurant. Behind. Oh, do you need andesite as well?
No, I just need the marble. Have you used this still low it is on the side?
We are sort of out of marble.
But it's nearly out of cobble as well.
Yeah, I used quite a bit. I'm just a bit surprised more than anything. I didn't think I'd get through it.
I'm surprised you've done the roof.
Huh?
I'm surprised you've done the roof.
Well, I was going to do the roof higher, but then A, I got bored. B, I was running out of cobblestone to build with. To build supports to build it. And then C, I realised it was going to pop through the floor.
Oh, yeah.
If the roof went up by like another 5 blocks, it would pop out through the floor, so...
Hello.
Martha.
Yeah.
That's fucking brilliant. While Martha went off to redesign the Gallimimus pen, I went back to the carnivore area to build both the roof of the interior area and also yet another pen. This time for the Alva and the Terror Bird. Now, the big mistake that I made with this pen was that I made it out of jungle leaves, which normally would not be a problem whatsoever, if it wasn't for the fact that the Alva was actually not a carnivore, but a herbivore. So when it was placed, it just immediately began to eat up the leaves on the ground, destroying the pen. So, one quick mass murder later, and everything was how it should be. After the pen was built, I finally had to accept I had used up the vast majority of our resources these past few weeks, and that our usage rate of resources was far surpassing our production rate. To fix this, it was now time to go over the top of the digital miner from the mechanism mod. Now, when it came to our options for automatic miners in this mod, this thing was truly the most advanced, far more so than the Buildcraft Quarry or the Railcraft mining bore we had used previously. It also required a lot more in the way of resources and power to run, but luckily we had a nuclear reactor, and just enough mechanism materials left to build it. It did take a bit of time to set up properly, since if the right settings aren't used, the miner will just destroy everything in a large radius. Initially, I set it up wrong, but luckily I realised immediately, and a quick fix later, the miner went to work gathering us a bunch of ore and marble at an unmatched rate. Martha will be very happy with that iron production. While that was left to run, I completed working on the outdoor walkway of the Carno Zone, even having the staircase up built. At some point, I'm gonna have to add some tiny shops and a few fast food stalls along with it. But you know what? I think it's just about time we go to the Fight Club and have its grand opening battle. Welcome to the first Dinosaur Fight Club battle. In the first corner, we have 5 Velociraptors, and in the second corner, we have 5 Atrociraptors. Who will win this battle? Make your bets now. It would appear the Velociraptors are starting out strong, but the Atrociraptors are pulling their weight. Could this be a comeback we are seeing? Well, it would appear the Velociraptors have well and truly won this, with a 5-2 victory. For the first time since I started on it about 6 weeks ago, the Carnivore Zone is actually starting to come towards being completed, with only a handful of pens left to build. I decided to start off the week strong by building a pretty big and cool pen with a variety of different dinosaurs. As with all the other pens, I started by cutting down a bunch of trees and making a rough design on where I want the pen to be positioned. At this point, I had cut down so many trees that this part of the island could hardly be called a forest anymore. I do plan to at some point come back through and place down a bunch more trees. After beginning to build the pen, I decided I wanted to have 2 different biomes in it. So I came up with this design where the top section of the pen is a small jungle with vines hanging down, and the bottom half is a beach. The vines ironically ended up causing a few more problems later on, since it turns out that dinosaurs can climb them, and while they never escaped, some did come far too close to the border for comfort. While I was building this, Martha was off in the Gallimimus pen building a bunch of small cabins that form part of the woodland-themed hotel, where you can sleep in these cabins in the dinosaur area. The front entrance for it currently has this big parasaur skeleton on top of it, but the plan is to eventually swap this out for a Gallimimus skeleton. Later on, we would go over and add a few other herbivores in the area, just to increase the dinosaur count. Jumping back to my ever-growing factory, I decided it was time to do something to increase our ore production even further. Don't get me wrong, the digital miner was producing ore at a simply incredible rate. But I knew we could be doubling it, so I designed this system where any ore collected from the miner is pumped out of the chests onto a conveyor belt system, where they are then dropped into this immersive engineering crusher that smashes the ore up before that ore is pushed away into a smelter system. You can actually watch this crusher from up above through a glass floor. The furnace system itself is completely separate from our pre-existing smelter system, but this one is dedicated just for ore. Now, to be honest, this entire system is not exactly the fastest whatsoever. However, it does double the ore, so I'm not complaining. To speed up the process, I could always swap the smelters out for an arc furnace, which could smelt dozens of ore at once. However, this is 100% a build for another day. Little did I know that while I was doing tech stuff, Martha was finding a solution to our villager population problem. The problem was that we had so many villagers but nowhere to really house them, so we were just leaving them in the laboratory, and it was starting to become really crowded. Hello.
Have carrots now because we're running out of eggs.
I can't believe we're running out of eggs.
I know.
We'll have to increase our egg farm again.
I know.
So you come across the incinerator.
Yeah, because they've got to remind them if they misbehave, that's where they're going.
Oh, bloody hell, Martha.
So I've also just spotted a block I've missed, so have a nice explore. So So I can't build over the other side because of the water, but I've done a nice little seating area to remind them that there's nothing out there and they can't escape.
Oh, is this their television?
Yeah, essentially.
They can look out into
You
the.
can't really look out because I picked the bars where it's really hard to see out. So if you go down the stairs,
It also tells them they can't mine through the wall to escape.
exactly. This is kind of like a sitting area for them with some more.
Are they actually wandering about?
No, I've made them stay now. Like I just put them on wonder so they sort of go away from each other.
Yeah, I like it.
They're all rooms with a bunk bed, and each set of bunk bed only has one chest, so they have to fight over it.
What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna come through at some point and set all of these to their homes, so they actually come here at night, and then we can have them walking around in the day, but they'll still come here at night. This would actually inspire me to create a weapon to surpass Metal Gear.
If you make a gun,
No.
I mean it clearly says pew pew.
No, it doesn't. I think you're imagining stuff. This is something I've wanted to build for a while, but I've never got around to it because I'd have to use Mechanism. But then I found that another mod has an even better version.
Okay, is it a tank?
No. This is to stop the villagers if they get out of hand. I want you to just imagine using this. Huh?
You made a grenade launcher.
No, but just imagine using this inside the lab in the prison.
Is it a flamethrower? Please tell me it's a flamethrower.
I can't.
What is that? That looks like a flamethrower. It is a flamethrower.
Now.
Tree, Josh.
Hang on.
Put the tree out.
It's not working. Here we go.
Make a fire extinguisher as well.
Yep.
Can you use it?
I've come prepared.
Fuck's sake. That was my favourite tree as well, Josh. Yeah, we can build it off
Yeah.
the doorway I've put down there. So it's
Martha,
all-
we've got a fire extinguisher. To celebrate finally having a flamethrower, I built a bedroom for myself and left room for Martha to build her own opposite. Both of these rooms have a large sliding door and a doorbell, because why not? Inside my room, you can come into an entryway with a table, a button to control the door, 2 armor stands, and a charging pad to replenish your batteries. This living room comes into a library with a television, a table, and a staircase leading to the top floor, where we find the master bedroom and the bathroom, which even has a fully working mirror. There's also this fish tank, which at some point I will add some fish inside of. So show me your room and I'll wire it up.
This is my room.
Very... Martha,
Yeah.
you're aware we're going to need to put a wall here on either side, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I didn't know what you wanted to do. So
Oh, okay, cool, let's continue.
this is the actual wall.
Sorry, where did you get this armour?
I might have nicked it out of the system.
What even armour is it?
Steel?
Oh.
It doesn't have any trousers or shoes, but go in there.
Oh, I'm liking this, hang on.
Actually, before we go in there, come with me.
Yep.
Look, look.
Oh, thank you.
Go in there.
Right. Ooh. Of course, I was wondering where the dodos... We'll get some proper dodos as well at some point, in the museum.
This is when my army of dodos is going to start, Josh.
I thought I was the one who made armies of dodos. After Martha showed me her room, I went back towards the Gallimimus pen and built this information hub with this unique roof. At some point, I'm going to add maps of the park on the wall, and also have an NPC who will give out maps of the park. There will also be an NPC who can give you information about different parts of the park, such as what the restaurants are, etc. In the background while preparing this, I was secretly preparing a dinosaur I had long been looking forward to having in the park. The Tyrannosaurus Rex. This pen ended up having this cave. Now, admittedly, it was far too small for the T-Rex, and in later weeks I will have to go back to rebuild the cave. This isn't the only occasion I underestimated the size of the T-Rex. When I would place them down, they would actually end up growing to be the exact same height as the pen wall. I'm going to have to either climb into that pit and lower the floor by a few blocks, or just add a safety fence. Also, funny story, when I first placed the T-Rexes, there were 2 of them, and they both grew to adulthood. However, after a while, the smaller T-Rex disappeared. My only assumption to what happened is that it was eaten by its older brother. Martha was also off building another herbivore pen. The exact plan for this pen plays into an idea we developed, which we will build in weeks to come. But for now, I won't reveal what it is. In this pen, she has put a bunch of new herbivores we didn't have before, such as these awesome long necks, which were a bit too big for the pen, so we moved them into the Brachy enclosure instead, which would then become just the long neck pen. Martha also wanted to put some dinosaur plants in here, and get enough to put them in all of our different pens. To get enough of the plants, Martha transformed our biolab into a prehistoric plant factory. Admittedly, she went a bit mad, becoming absolutely obsessed with producing them and finishing this little beach tower, which serves as both a lifeguard hut and a check-in desk for the Galaminius Hotel. Deciding it had been far too long since we got a new vehicle, I built yet another car. This one being a carrier. Unfortunately, this carrier ended up being a lot smaller than I imagined, so once I built it and installed an engine, I just parked it up at the Herbivore car park and sort of forgot about it. It was even a lot slower than I thought it would be, but to be fair, it may have just been because of the engine I installed. With Martha's plant obsession going overboard, we both went and built some grassy areas, with me building this little grassy cut through in the carnivore zone, and Martha building this herbivore picnic area that overlooked the river next to the long neck pen. Not being content to stop there, Martha also went overboard and built this swamp-themed pen in the carnivore zone. Martha building the swamp pen saw an end of an era for me. Back in week 3, when I started building the carnivore area, I was just living out of these 4 double chests and crafting table. But now it is time to move them, and by the end of the 10th week on the server, I had moved the contents of the chests into our storage system. When Martha had finished building the pen, I quickly made a trip back to the laboratory to create some susho and dinosaur crocodile eggs, before placing them in the pen. With that sorted, I only really had a few builds left. The first one that I wanted to get out of the way was the restaurant build. For it, I built this 2-floor semicircle with a pouncing raptor skeleton in the middle. For the name, I didn't really know what I wanted it to be, but I knew it should be something raptor related. Maybe Raptor House or something? I tried to design this sort of like book stand for waiters to book people in. To make it, I used chisel and bits, and while I don't think it turned out too great, I do think it serves its purpose. I did actually at one point have to rebuild a large part of the room, because I stupidly made one side way too short. The kitchen has this nice little curtain where the cooks can just shut it if they want to pretend they don't exist, so everyone else leaves them alone. The kitchen leads into this super small pen that has a window connected to it, allowing the customers to view in. At some point, I plan on putting some small compies or procmos in there, just to add a bit more of life to the carnivore restaurant. Once the restaurant was finished, I sat down with Martha and we designed a new plan for the park, so that as we began building our third zone, we would actually know what is going on with the rest of the park. This is especially handy for Martha, because she had made it her goal to build a road and path system all around the park, and this dramatically helps her plan out the roads, so she doesn't end up building through any future pens. Martha also went on a bit of a building mayhem, running around the park building a bunch of stuff. First off, she built the beach with this little ice cream truck. While in that area, she also started work on the dock where visitors will arrive via boat. The plan is that when you spawn there, you are on a docked boat and you can come off the boat to start exploring. She also went to build the car park for the carnivore zone, which is by far the biggest car park in our build. She also went and built her own restaurant in the herbivore zone that has this giant window letting you view a large sprawling cave. As Martha was building all this, I was building our Spinosaurus pen. Apart from being one of the furthest builds in the zone, it also serves as a bit of a connection between the carnivore zone and the future aquatic zone. Hilariously, the Spinosauruses are so big that even their newly hatched babies are more or less the size of a player. When I finished the pen, I was left with a decent sized space in the middle of the walkway. So to fill it, I built this little food hut that serves small procmo legs and also tacos, where all the meat is from dinosaurs. I am at some point going to go around and build a bunch more huts around the park, each serving different types of food, just so visitors have more options. As I've mentioned, the next zone is going to be the aquatic zone where all of our water dinosaurs will be. A key part in helping us to build this is going to be the boats that can speed up the process of traversing the area, and also the other large lakes that make up this park. This middle lake I used as an experiment by building this waterhouse hut, where we can store the 2 boats I built. The first one is a dinghy that I simply can't work out how to get the engine started for. The other one is this riverboat that has the Jurassic Park symbol on the side of it. Now, this one I can get the engine to start, but I somehow can't make it turn. I'm sure there's a way to get both of these working, but I'm going to have to do some experimentation first. For now, I'm happy to leave them inside their dock. Martha would end her building rampage by building this hut on the far side of the long neck pen, which would serve as the boarding bay for a new attraction. See, the mod has the ability to put cars along guided tracks just like in the film, so I went through the longer neck pen and placed down all these tracks for it. It's not exactly the most exciting build we've done, but I think it looks really cool, and honestly, I just love it. With that done, I only had one thing left to really build for week 10. That was something I had been wanting to build for a long time, the Gigapen. The location for this would be wedged between the T-Rex and the Spinosaurus enclosures. Size-wise, this was going to be one of the largest pens yet, far bigger than the T-Rex due to just how massive the Giga is. Eventually, I got the pen ready, but before I could place the Giga, Martha had her own problems related to one. I do bring with me a gift.
A nuke?
No, I think a nuke might be a bit overkill.
Just a small one.
No, normally that's me who's requesting it. Right,
If it wasn't, it'd be up, north, from where you are.
Come in.
I see you.
Right, come to me. Where's this T-Rex? Or fucking Giga or whatever it is. Yeah, where's this Giga? Oh my god, that's where it is. Okay.
Okay, I think you've lagged for me. Oh,
no,
yeah,
Martha, I'm behind you.
Yeah,
Come back. Come back, Martha. Come back.
What are you doing?
I'm behind you.
You've got a rocket launcher. What is that?
A gun. Yeah, that is 100% a Giga. We really should have brought. We really should have brought a tranquilizer, but.
Well, it's too late. Shoot. I don't.
Oh. Okay, Giga down.
Get the other one.
Giga down. Advance. Oh.
Have you lagged?
Yeah. Okay, I'll admit these might be a bit powerful. Martha.
Yeah.
You know how we've been getting lag occasionally?
Yeah. Do you think it might be them?
Yeah.
I'm being attacked by a zombie.
Hang on. That was a bit of a shock for us. We hadn't really seen any wild carnivore dinos near the base since we started the park. Of course, far out towards the swamp and the jungle, there were plenty of carnivores, but the fact we were seeing them this close to the base proved just how far out we had built, and that we would definitely need a wall or some sort of barrier to stop them from wandering too close to us again. It also made us realise that we could finally fight back against them. That was all I had done in week 10, but before I end this video, I want to quickly recap on what we have built over the last 5 weeks. My main focus has been on finishing the carnivore area, which has seen me build close to a dozen new pens and well over a dozen new dinosaur breeds. We had the raptor pens that will have goat launchers, a large pen containing several different species of dinosaur, Spino pens that are half water, and so much more. And of course, the Dinosaur Fight Club, which took just so much time to build. These 5 weeks have also seen a mass expansion of the park as a whole, with entire new sections such as the Gallimimus pen and its hotel being built, and Martha upgrading the road and path system to cover almost the entire left side of the park, with there now being a few more car parks and helipads spread around. From a utility point of view, we had some massive additions with the auto smelter being done, a new, far more efficient system of ore collection being created in the auto miner, and of course, the nuclear reactor that powers it all, and the train system that allows for far faster travel across the park. I am not sure how many weeks we have left, but I am aiming for at least 5 more weeks of building before we come close to fully finishing the park. So join us next time on Building Jurassic Park.